Awesome. I think we are on. Hi, everyone. It's Angelica Allen here. Welcome, everyone that is watching us out there. I always get confused when I'm live, when I'm not. I'm here very excited with Elizabeth. Elizabeth has a beautiful story to share with us, and I am super excited to hear all about it. We've been chatting away just before coming live. So hi, Elizabeth. How are you?
Good. Good afternoon to you and good morning to me.
I know. So Elizabeth is calling all the way from Portugal, and I am from Australia. So we managed to organize a time together, which is awesome. So Elizabeth, tell us a little bit more about your story. Like, how did you end up in Portugal?
My husband's family,
Yeah,
we used to live in the US.
yeah,
So, very American voice here, not Portuguese at all.
yeah. That's what I.
My husband, everyone says, like, wait, you're not Portuguese. No, a neighbor just found out I was American. He thought I was Portuguese. So, we ended up moving here 8 years ago. So, we've been here with my husband's side of the family. My family's all in the US and just kind of loving life over here. So different.
Oh, that's awesome. So tell us, a little bit more about your story. Now we were talking a little bit about, anxiety and, your journey around that. Tell us a little bit more about where it all started and, where you are at with all now.
Oh man, I have no idea when it actually started because I didn't realize it was anxiety that was my issue when I was a little kid in school and hated taking tests. I hated doing presentations. I remember all the time failing classes because I refused to do the final presentation. And once I had my kids, realized at first it kind of scared me because I thought maybe I had postpartum depression. And then talking to doctors, realizing, no, you have, I didn't really even open up to doctors, but it was my first panic attack, ironically, was the day of our wedding. And it was because I didn't want to take the pictures because it was all in Portuguese and I didn't understand Portuguese fully. So I was terrified to be talking to people and being the center of attention. I did not want all eyes on me at all. I like being the best friend and close to people and cheering on people. I did not want to be the center of attention. So, but the bride is not supposed to see the groom before the wedding. So my aunt brought me Cheerios. She was like, you need to eat something and you need to breathe. I could not breathe. All I wanted was to see my husband Rob's face. And they were like, no, you can't see him. I was like, we already have 2 kids together. I do not care. Just get him. So he came upstairs and just put his forehead on mine and was like, a couple deep breaths. You can do this. It's just you and I. We'll get through the day. So we did. And I noticed there's a couple pictures that I see of our wedding. They're like, oh, that's a beautiful picture. I was like, yeah, you see a beautiful picture. I remember my lip completely trembling because I couldn't breathe inside. Like I just wanted to scream and run away, fight or flight. That's what I do.
Wow.
And as I got older and actually started to see a therapist, was realize I have major anxiety and panic attacks. So she wanted to put me on the meds and I was just freaking out about that. She was like, the fact that you're freaking out about meds just proves you really need some meds right now. And we'll figure out how to get you off of them. We'll do a small dosage. And that to me was like, all right, this isn't my full end story that I'm going to be on meds for the rest of my life. And when we moved to Portugal, I had half a bottle left of my meds and just couldn't get any more once they were gone. And they were like, if the doctors here in Portugal, if you want to be on meds again, you're going to have to start from the beginning, see a therapist, talk about from the very beginning. I was like, I don't speak the language. You're not going to understand me. You don't know where I come from. Like, I don't want to do this. So I struggled for a long time with absolutely nothing and got back into my yoga online. And kind of like in the meditation side of it is what helped my anxiety lessen, I guess.
So just going back a little bit, like my understanding of post natal depression that you mentioned, like at the beginning, that the doctors thought that you had that. Like, w- what were the symptoms that you had? Like, was it that you were, like,
Mine,
couldn't get out
I
of
don't even
bed?
think I've told my mom this. My mom, because we were in high school when we had our kids, but my husband was abroad for college. And my, so I was home alone with two infant sons.
By the way, like,
And,
I think it's relevant to say that you had twins as well, right? Like the two,
oh,
say two, people might be thinking like, why two? Like you had twins, yeah.
I had twins when I was 17. I was 16 when I found out, and 17 when I had them. My husband was here in Portugal in college. So we were both young kids, learning about ourselves, not
Yeah.
only that, but being parents.
Wow.
So my parents were out of state for a convention. They weren't even home, by myself. And my boys were, so when I had my kids, I was still, I think I was a senior in high school. I was a senior in high school when I had them. And the first full month of their life, my mom slept in my bed with me so I could get some help during the night so I could go to school in the morning.
Yeah.
Like we didn't have my high school, we didn't have a program where they shoved the teenagers to the side. The daycare was underneath our high school building where the preschool was. So there was a room just for teen parents. We'd go upstairs, do our classes. If
Wow.
something was wrong with our kids or the moms that were breastfeeding, they'd call us and say, you need to come down and take care of your kid. So we would run out of class, go take care of our kid, and then go back upstairs to class. So the school I was in, thank God, they were tremendous
Yeah.
help for teenagers. So back to my parents being gone, with my mom's help and everyone, I was alone. I had no one. They were both screaming, crying. I was overtired and stressed, anxiety levels to the max, but didn't realize it. And I was terrified to be alone with them because I didn't know what I was going to do to get them to stop crying.
Yeah.
Like, you don't want to think the worst, but I was afraid of the worst. So I
Yeah.
called two of my friends crying hysterically. I was like, I don't know what I'm going to do. I'm going to do something bad to get them to stop crying. I need someone to be in the house with me and just help me. They dropped everything and came right over. One of my girlfriends was like, you need to leave the house, like get outside, go for a walk. I'm going to stay here. They're fine. They're in the crib. Nothing's going to happen. You need to leave the house. So just I cried for hours. I could
Okay.
not stop crying. I'm thankful to them for the rest of my life that they dropped everything, came over.
Yeah.
They were younger than me too. And just that's when it clicked, like something's not okay chemically with you, that you were going to do something to get your kid to stop crying. Like how it's just scary as a parent. Like you
It
don't,
is.
and I've never really told anyone that because you're ashamed.
Well, I know. And, as you said, that if it makes you feel better, my son, uh, and I only had one of them. I was in New Zealand by myself in the sense like we didn't have any family. It was just me and my husband. And I didn't have enough milk, but I was adamant that I wanted to breastfeed him. And he was a really big baby. He was born with 4.2 kgs. And this kid did not stop crying for, I can say, for 6 weeks. And my husband's response was always like he wants more milk, and it would get to the end of the day, did not have any more milk, I did not have any more patience, I did not have any more energy, I did not have anything left on me. And though it got to the point that he was losing a bit of weight and I had to replace with the formula, I was still adamant that I wanted to breastfeed him. But this kid didn't stop crying for 6 weeks. And I felt some days, I actually said to my husband, what have we done?
Oh,
This is just like insane, like this kid doesn't stop crying. I wanted to throw this kid out of the window. This is like, I think that, this perfect picture that people, put it in magazines and, like this, oh, I know this is lovely, babe. This is so great. Breastfeeding is so good. Like my nipples were like bleeding and I didn't have any milk.
Chapped and awful.
Yeah, like in all of that. So first of all, I want to say thank you for sharing this, because I think, it takes an enormous amount of courage to share this, but you were not the only one either.
That's the part I realize is the more we talk about it, we really aren't alone. There's more people going through the same things, just no one talks about it, which is sad.
I know.
Because if I actually talked about it, I probably would have gotten the meds and the help I needed sooner, and I would have found my yoga and meditation a lot sooner.
And how did you get to, so then you realize then, like, oh, maybe this is something more than just having kids, or did you just think like at that point, this is just being a mom, or did you had like a deep, like something inside you saying this is more than just being a young mom, like.
No, when that happened, like, because I was still so young and not fully developed myself, like I didn't realize there was something wrong. I thought it was just you have 2 kids and you're alone by yourself for the first time.
Yeah.
And I really wish like I could remember, but I can't. It was like a year or so after our wedding that I noticed the anxiety was getting worse and just stopped function. Like it was awful, and would run to bathrooms at work and just have a panic attack and a mental breakdown and go back to it. Like, toughen up, you're fine, you can get through this. And then after a while I was like, okay, you can't get through this because this is happening way too often.
Wow.
So that's when I started seeing the therapist. And I think about a year or so after that, a girlfriend of mine, I don't know if you are familiar, it's called Groupon. It's a website in the US that you can get on. So there was a Groupon for a hot yoga studio when Bikram was the thing.
Yeah.
And I loved the feeling of just not talking to anyone, being in my own mat, doing the postures, and physically sweating out the crap on my shoulders out of the day.
Yeah. Sounds
So
like
that was
perfect
12,
medicine.
13, exactly. 12 or 13 years ago, I actually started doing yoga, and that was at the studio, and loved it, kept going.
So when you started the yoga, were you taking the meds still, or how did you start transitioning from?
I still had the meds, but they were a take as you needed because I didn't want to be on meds. It was a generic brand of Xanax, and I hated how I felt on it. Like I would sleep, I couldn't function. I was just a zombie. I hated it. And not being in control of me freaks me. I guess that's the anxiety of not being in control.
And you felt literally that you couldn't control yourself. Literally, that was the feeling. Like,
I'd pass out. I'd fall asleep.
Wow.
I'd completely fall asleep on the meds. I'd get so tired and groggy and couldn't. The company I worked with was manufacturing, and I worked in the engineering side of stuff. So it wasn't heavy machinery all day. But even then, like I knew I couldn't take it because I'd get sleepy and want to fall. Like I need to go to bed. So I hate it. And I was on the smallest dosage that you can get of it. And then just felt the shame of anxiety was going to control my life forever. And it was becoming my stigma or my thing. Like, oh, my husband put it a good way. Like people like to excuse things. Like whatever you do in your life, oh, it's because she has anxiety. She's anxious. And you just don't get it. And I didn't want it to be my shtick.
Yeah.
So I think when I was still going to hot yoga, it was just as needed. So when I felt a panic attack coming on, I'd take the meds. And then once we moved here to Portugal, that's when it completely stopped. I didn't have anything. The anxiety was becoming really bad. I noticed my nails started to finally grow, but I was digging them into my palms.
Wow.
When the anxiety got so bad, just to feel something.
Yeah.
You feel too much all at once, digging my nails. It was like, all right, I can physically see this and pinpoint this to get my mind off of everything else, but I would still be sweating, and other people would probably see me looking calm. They could probably tell because I wear my emotions on my face that something was up,
Yeah.
but didn't realize the turmoil I really felt inside.
So
Major fight or flight with me.
so what, like, obviously there was like a recipe for getting even more anxious, right? Like, you know that your meds are finishing and you couldn't get any more, and then like that
Didn't have
sounds like
any of my family or friends. Yeah, exactly. The
so you're
recipe
just
was
like, oh my
definitely
God.
getting worse. I try and talk to my husband about it, and I'd get anxious and upset with him because he didn't understand, but it's not his fault because he doesn't suffer from it.
Yeah.
So I can't expect him to fix it or know what to do, because if you don't suffer from it, you don't get it.
No.
It's hard to explain.
And I can imagine that from somebody who doesn't suffer from it, having a compassionate for it like all the time as well. It must be quite uh,
Oh, I'm sure it
tiring.
was exhausting.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Also, just like, okay, well, yeah, like I understand that, but what about this? Then what about that? What about, it just, there is a
And
limit.
it makes it worse.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I don't want to, make it, like that it's not important, but I can imagine that, that would have been hard for him as well. So what did you do in that transition when it was getting bad? How did you come out of it? Were you meditating then, or?
I didn't start meditating yet. I noticed because my husband would call me, like I would just shut down. Like I wouldn't talk to him about anything. I'd just shut down and go into my own little bubble inside. And I started following Yoga with Adriene and the Journey Junkie online to do yoga at home, because I didn't speak the language yet, and I didn't go out on my own of finding a studio here. So I didn't even know if they had yoga up here in northern Portugal. So I was doing it at home in the comfort of my four squares that no one could see me. And Allie, the Journey Junkie, she has lots of little now everyone knows it as challenges programs. Hers was 21 days of meditation. So I was starting to dabble into the philosophy side of yoga, and not knowing it before, I thought it was just all the postures on the mat.
Yeah.
And she introduced me to mantras and repeating stuff over and over. And the fact that I could do something myself and repeat it over and over, I physically had something to concentrate on to help the anxiety. Like when I was in the midst of the anxiety and panic attacks, they say now, like, I don't even remember it and I'm okay.
Yeah.
The five things, 4 things that you can hear. I forget them all. So when you're in the midst of anxiety,
yeah. Like the
yeah,
five
you don't
senses,
think
right?
of
Yeah.
exactly the 5 senses. So
Yeah.
when you're in the midst of that, you don't think of the outside world because you're just inside freaking
Wow.
out. So I needed something else, and it was her that taught me that you can concentrate on something with the mantras, and the vibrations inside really do help connect yourself, your mind and your body, not just the here and now. Like it clicked with me with everything she was saying with the mantras. And it was all at home. You just had papers to follow, and it wasn't any videos or anything that I could physically follow. So you had to do it on your own. And noticed that I was definitely becoming calmer when I had the mantras. But I was still ashamed. Like I hid it from my family because they didn't get it. They weren't understanding what I was doing. Now I think they do. But it really was helping me.
That's
And
beautiful. That is, the sound mantras. I'm studying at the moment a bachelor in natural medicine, and there is some scientific research that backs up, the healing effect of repeating the same sounds, and the vibration of repeating the same sounds. It's the same thing when people are praying together. They're praying for, like in this they're saying the same thing, everybody together. There is,
Yep.
this is not, we think, oh, this is not just a thing. There is actually a science behind it, explaining that they're all creating a higher vibration, by
Yes.
repeating that same sound. And this is, what and what we talked about before, like the five senses. I just want to clarify for people, if people don't know, like, it's just paying attention at five things that you can touch, five things that you can see, five things that you can hear,
Hear,
five things,
smell.
yeah, smell, five
Yep.
things that you can smell. And I remember that when I started dabbling meditation, I heard about this because I think the soldiers did that during the war. That comes from the time that soldiers were in the war. And but I never realized that somebody with anxiety couldn't do it, because they're just so,
You can't think.
yeah.
You absolutely cannot think. And that's a lot of things with some doctors, and reading on my own was like, that really helps ground you. But it doesn't when you're in the midst of it, because you can't remember what you're supposed to look and see and touch. You cannot remember.
Yeah.
It never worked for me. And I wanted to find something to help me that wasn't meds.
And when you look, like, you think about, like, I don't know where it all started, things in school, and how can, like, what do you think it triggers it now, like, when you look at it, like, like, what now, how would you define your anxiety? Like, is it, like you mentioned earlier, is it about the, like, losing the control? Is it about,
I think it's losing the control, and like, I have abandonment issues. My husband and I have been together through hell and back for our kids are going to be 17 in April. So 17, 18 years. I don't think he's going anywhere if he hasn't gone anywhere yet. And I think that helps remind me of, it's all going to be okay and work out. So breathe through it. And
yeah,
it was one thing our yoga instructor, Farah, had said that just blew my mind. And it stuck with me all the time now, is your feelings are meant to be felt right now. You're not supposed to live in the feelings.
yeah,
Feel it, acknowledge it, embrace it, and just move on. Let it go and live in the here and now. And that helped tremendously, because when you have the anxiety, you think like,
it's the
I
future.
noticed that I caught myself yesterday that you say something, you go on without your day. And I was like, wait a minute, did that person take that the wrong way? Does he know I didn't mean it in a bad way? Like, you just overanalyze everything, and
It's just living
it's
in the
ridiculous because it
future.
already happened.
Yeah. And is it already happening? Is it
For
like,
me, it's both the past and the future.
okay.
For me, it's both. Like, mine's, the older I get and I realize just how bad it is, but it doesn't need to control me. And that's the part I'm really working on.
Yeah. And now you have a beautiful story. So after you started doing, like, it kind of you created your own practice, right? With this challenge, a 21-day challenge, and you started um going to bed a little bit before, and every day you were doing, go, yeah,
Yep.
you tell
I
it.
do the mantras.
Yeah.
So I would, before my husband went to bed, because I didn't want him to see me or make fun of me, I would go to bed earlier, close down the lights, light my candles, roll out my yoga mat, do a quick little 15, 20-minute actual flow. And then I would get out my malas and start my mantras and do the full 108, and then climb into bed, and I was ready to go to sleep. And the longer I did that, I noticed like I was feeling better and calmer,
Mm-hmm.
happier, not taking out random things on my husband that made no sense. And he whisked us away to Germany. It was an early flight, and he was sleeping. He does all the driving. And so I was like, I'm going to let him sleep. We're on a plane. We're fine. I hate planes. I don't do heights. So planes and I don't mix. And we started getting turbulence and the panic was coming, but he was sound asleep. And I felt bad. I didn't want to wake him up because I'm having stupid issues and can't breathe. So I grabbed my malas out of my bag and started to do my mantras and going through. And it had to be more than halfway through. I wish I could remember these little details because it's kind of exciting to look back at now and be like, hey. So more than halfway through and realized like my breathing was normal. I was actually concentrating on what I was doing and I didn't have a full blown out panic attack. And when I say panic attack, I do major hyperventilatings, like tears, snots, everything. It's not pretty and I cannot breathe and I make a scene and it's just embarrassing for everyone that's around me.
So
I was able to stop. Yeah. Oh, mine are bad.
And I mean, so that is amazing. You stopped your own.
But I stopped panic attack and I was able to rest, pull out my book. On a plane, yes. And was able to just grab my book and start reading. I think I might have even dozed off too.
Wow. That is
my husband didn't know until we landed that I had an issue.
That is amazing.
Huge.
So, how do you feel now? Like how, like what are the things that you still do daily, to help you? Like,
I take the time. I'm not great. I'm trying to get better about stepping on my mat every day. But I'm better about taking the deep breaths and noticing. I appreciate the little moments now.
Yeah.
Like I don't worry about yesterday. I'm not going to look about tomorrow. Like I'm just going to focus on now and be here and present for my kids. Like I want to be the happy, fun mom.
Yeah.
So that's what helps is focusing on the now. And when I notice, I wear one of my bracelets daily and notice when I'm getting really bad, almost like a fidget spinner for kids.
Yeah.
If I touch it, I'll say a mantra in my head. And it's like, all right, I get me back to normal breathing and it's going to be okay. Amazing. I survived it yesterday. I'll survive it today.
Yeah. So, and by the way, when you say I'm not, very good at showing up on my mat, I know that the yoga is still a massive practice, like a massive, you still do a lot of yoga as well, right? Like from normal people's perspective, yoga is still a big part of your life, right?
Big time. I'll still come in and I have my own little corner with my yoga mat. My kids know this yoga mat is not for them. They have to use a different one when they're working out. Awesome. Definitely. Even if it's short, like I realized that it doesn't have to be a full long, like a full flow. I can just do a quick couple of sun salutations just to move and I feel better.
Amazing.
Moving helps.
Yeah. So, and obviously you meditate every day as well, like a proper meditation, or your meditation are always with malas now, or how does that work?
Not always with malas. Sometimes it's hard for me to do my own meditation. I really like guided meditations also. Like if I'm struggling with something, Allie, the journey junkie, is very big on the chakras. So when I notice one aspect of me is not doing well, I will pull out a guided meditation from her. And that helps when it's a structured guided meditation, I guess. But my malas on my own will help me when I'm out and about in the city and can't just fully lie down for a good guided meditation.
Yeah. it helps you to bring you back to the moment, right? Like it just it's the anchor.
Absolutely.
Yeah, amazing. Yeah.
Absolutely.
So would you say that you do something for yourself each day? Like a self-care practice, like
completely.
Yes.
For a long time, because I was the mom, the wife, and I had to be the perfect mom and housewife, I always put myself on the back burner or felt guilty about making my mental health a priority. Even my physical health, like you have young kids to take care of, so why are you sitting and doing this? But I'm fortunate enough to be a housewife. So when my kids went off to school, I had plenty of time during the day. I was like, I'm going to work on me. I'm going to work out. I'm going to go for a walk. I'm going to do yoga. I'm going to meditate. And I noticed that when I put my mental health and physical health first, I was showing up more for my family. I was being better and more present. So that's the thing a lot of women I know struggle with is you're not being selfish by taking care of yourself, because when you take care of yourself, you're taking care of everyone.
Yeah.
And that's
so
definitely a big part that I know everyone struggles with.
Yeah.
That mom guilt.
Yeah, definitely.
Which is kind of a bad thing to say, because I know dads have it too.
Yeah, I know. But I think that there is the pressures. I think, look, women have always worked, but like sometimes I think the work that, people did before was maybe more based at home. I don't know. They maybe could do, I don't know, the sewing at home for other people. I don't know. Like, but, there is, I think since, we have this pressure of like, being, having a very high pressure job, and then, being this perfect mom and this perfect, all everything, and the parenting these days are very different, like there is a lot of, the things that a lot, I think, different. And when I look back at like my mom's time, which, in Brazil, like my mom stayed at home. My mom has never been a lazy woman. She was always busy and doing things, but, the expectation as a parent, it was different, and I think that, these days, there is so, like, you have to sit down, play for kids when they're babies, like they're so, like back then,
they make you
like,
do everything.
exactly.
Society,
Exactly. Like before, there is no time for you. But when you say, you mentioned that, since you've been in Portugal, which has only been, what, 8 years, did you say? Or
this year actually might be 9.
but you did work before, didn't you? Like in America, like you're saying it.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So you did work, and, like you were having all of those pressures as well. Like you were not always at home with your boys, right?
Absolutely. And in the US, the worst part is that everyone's on a rat race, but you don't realize you're on it until you take a different step and look at your life differently. Like even on the weekends, it wasn't really quiet downtime like we have here. I mean, now it's a pandemic, so it's completely different. Yeah. But before it was, we had tons of sports we had to get to. Our kids did baseball, basketball, soccer. Like every weekend, it was packed with something. There was just no time to sit outside and read and listen to nothing.
Yeah. And so, but since you've been in Portugal, you've started your making your own malas, right?
So that was because I only had the one mala I had. It was my tiger eye, my grounding, and I used it so much, the string broke. Oh. So I was like, we're also in Portugal, so no one around me actually sells them. So I was like, all right, I can do this. I have string. I can fix this. And as I was restringing them and fixing my own mala, I was like, wait, like I can do this. I know I can sell these. I can make these. They're so calming and therapeutic to make myself. I've always been creative. So in high school, my favorite classes were my art classes, and I loved being hands-on, painting, paper mache. Like it was my thing, was art. And when you're making the malas, it's nice to be creative with the different beads and the properties of those gemstones and how they can affect you when you work with them. So that's I'm not into the Reiki part of it, but I love that knowing one gemstone is good with grounding.
Yeah.
When I just holding it and rubbing it, and I love that they get warm in your hands as you're touching them because they're natural stone.
Yeah.
That you center yourself to that property. Like my tiger's eyes for grounding. So when I'm holding it and rubbing it, I know I should be grounded, and I feel my feet connected to the ground and look at trees. Like different properties help with where I'm at. And I like that other people can feel the same way.
Amazing. So that's awesome. So, you've got a website and people can, go on your website and buy the malas like all online and everything is set up.
Yep. Mala necklaces, which are the traditional 108 beads, and then also bracelets. So I have the two, and it's a weekend with Elizabeth. Yeah.
Amazing.
I love it. It's very calming.
I would add the details so people can reach out. But also, I understand that you've became a yoga teacher recently. Tell us a little bit more about this and your
good old COVID changed everything. My husband and I were working in the city about an hour and a half away from us. We flipped condos. So we would buy them, flip them, sell them. And because of COVID, it really drastically kind of stopped. So we don't live in the same city. We couldn't even travel. Like, we had a major lockdown ban. And with the lockdown, I wasn't going to the yoga studio anymore. And I just noticed, like, I couldn't even see my family. Like, you can't get on a plane and go see your family. We were supposed to see my sister last year. We had a big year planned last year, and I was excited about it because we were going to go do a Mediterranean cruise with my sister. Mm-hmm. We were going to do a full week down south here in Portugal when my brother-in-law and sister-in-law came with their little one, my niece. But everything shut down. They weren't allowed to. We had tons of friends here in August. A lot of foreigners come from abroad. So we would have had a bunch of friends coming over to visit. Nothing. So when you're isolated from everyone, it's kind of like, you get lonely in the worst ways.
Yeah.
And so then saw that the Yoga Alliance decided that you didn't have to do in-person training. And that's where the Mom Guild came in, that's something that'd be cool, but I could never take off 3 weeks a month to go do a training somewhere for thousands of dollars that could have gave them good clothes for the school year.
Yeah.
And then when this happened, I was like, I think I'm going to jump on it. And I had just finished one of Allie's challenges that was manifesting your dreams with the chakra system. And in that was like, I'm going to do it. I'm going to do this for me. And no matter what comes of it, at least I understand more of the philosophy side of yoga. Yeah. And then the more I got into it and the teachings with Farah in our class was just like, I can bring some calmness to someone else too.
Yes, definitely. That is beautiful.
I just loved it.
So what's next? Tell us.
Thanks.
Yeah. What's next? For you, like coming up that at the end of April, did you say that you've got something?
April 26th, yeah. I'm gonna do my first challenge. So the end game is to start teaching classes of meditation and breath work. There's so much yoga asana practices. No one teaches the meditation and the breath work benefits of yoga, which I absolutely love, and they've helped me. So I want to be the person that you can come to when you need just a little bit of calmness and not feel guilty that you're taking care of yourself. Even if you need energy, people don't realize that meditation and breath work can change the way you think and feel.
Yeah. Amazing.
And I just love that.
Yeah. And
it's something you can do with their kid.
Yes, definitely. And, and I think that, there are so many people suffering from anxiety and so many people that might think that the only choice that they may have is, maybe taking medication,
meds, and it's not.
Yeah. And you are the living proof that is not the only way, and I think it's powerful that you have been on the medication, but you have been able to create a different path for you.
Yep. I think it's been, so we've been here 8 or 9. It's been about 7 years that I haven't had any meds at all for anxiety or panic attacks. None.
Amazing. That is
Just,
incredible.
yeah, which is crazy. So end of April, the 26th, will be a quick 5-day to jumpstart you for new beginners, newbies into it, of what meditation is and how you can use that in breath work in your everyday life to bring just a little bit more bit of calmness.
Amazing, amazing. Well, I will
Yeah.
also share your details on Facebook so people can reach out, and Instagram. And sure enough, you're going to put all the details on your Facebook and on Instagram so they can, see when that's coming up. But thank you so much for sharing your story with us. Like
Thanks for having me, love. So exciting.
it's been beautiful, and I'm sure you're going to help so many people. I am really proud of you for having achieved that, like pretty much, like healing yourself with, by doing the meditation with the malas, and by finding this strength within yourself. I think that is
Yeah,
beautiful.
that's the best way to put it, is the strength within. Is realize, like, I've had a lot of people say like, oh, you're strong, but you don't feel it. And now I feel it. That strength and self-love is huge. And people don't realize that you can get it from breath work and meditation just by repeating and tweaking the way you think about everyday life.
Yeah, definitely. And by connecting to yourself again, right? Which is what meditation and breath work, because you just need to be in you, right? Like within you. You can't, have, this is where your focus needs to come back to. And I think that's beautiful that you're sharing this with people.
Thanks. And I hope some other people can find some inner peace too.
Yes, definitely. Well, thank you so much for your time, Elizabeth. It's been amazing to have you. And yeah, I will add all the details below, and hopefully people can reach out.
Me too. I'm here. I'm always around.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye.